right, I gotta be straight. I blame PZ Myers. Not for not for making me purchase Minecraft. Just to be clear, I actually purchased a copy of Minecraft a couple of years ago for social reasons. Want to hang out with some people, just play some games and all that. Unfortunately, it did not work out. We just lost interest and drifted away and all that. So, I had my copy of Minecraft sitting like that for years, just not really doing anything with it. And then, about a month and a half ago, PZ Myers pops up and says, "Hey, I'm thinking of streaming Minecraft again. Why don't anybody who wants to join in?" And I'm like, I'm not using this. This is currently a bit of a hellscape. The current situation with COVID and all that. Maybe just sitting down and playing some video games with friends would be kind of fun. And what actually would be the worst that could happen? Well, this is the worst that could happen. Welcome, by the way, to my bedroom on my private server. I got super lucky with the stream that with the seed that I got there. The bedroom that you can sort of see over here. Let me get my mouse over. Oh, there we go. The view that you're looking at was actually right out here, looking straight towards this little aisle over here. It's inside a mountain, and I generally love mountain biomes, as you've probably guessed by now. In particular, I sort of love them right next to an ocean environment because you get that high contrast between, the snowy mountain peaks and the ocean layer that's underneath it as well. On top of that, just to add luck to luck, the iceberg biomes are actually really rare within Minecraft themselves. So to have all these icebergs littered around here is again super lucky. And to put the very cherry on the top of it all, the spawn point for the entire world, right up there. I mean, that is just incredible luck overall. And so, yeah, I've started to sort of turn the place into a home. Here's sort of a reverse view of it right now. You can see the bedroom that we were looking at before, but underneath there, I'm planning on actually starting a farm. I haven't excavated a fair bit of it, maybe a third to one half at most, because, well, it's pretty freaking big. And I mean, also pretty freaking bright. But a lot of that is because I've actually had problems with mob spawns within there, some creepers in particular, which is kind of annoying, so I sort of sectioned them off. But yes, I love this basic design. I love how things are sort of getting into place. But to sort of help me design this, I was really helped out with Blender. There's actually like a number of plugins you can get, or a number of programs you can use to take your Minecraft world and export it into Blender. And once it's in there, you can do all sorts of crazy things within here. Like this, for instance, is a render of that mountain, again, from within Blender. And now, if I punch a button, I can actually peel back the mountain layers and reveal all of my home area right here. This red area is what I sort of call phase 0 of my home. It's what I sort of figured out on my own. I built it, burrowed in, built a little bit of a chamber here. Then went down to my favorite mining level and set up sort of a mining area. There's actually a bit of a tree farm down there, a paper farm, and of course just a wheat farm down over there for some nourishment and such. But then when I imported this world into Blender, I started planning out other phases on here. Phase 1 is mostly complete at this part. It's got, the stairway to get up to the bedroom, connecting stairway to go across to the farm area, and two other entrances, one to the exits, one to the south and one to the north. These ones are all worked out. This, obviously, as I mentioned before, has not quite been finished. And that's all very cool and all that, but this, unfortunately, is east-facing, which means if I sleep in my private world and get up, I don't get to see the sunrise sort of coming through. So, for Phase 2, I actually have plans to set up a western bedroom and connect it to the farm itself, and that way I get to choose which spot I want to go through. And obviously I'm going to need an exit as well, so there's going to be plans for a west exit on that. All of this I could really only plan without Blender. Could not really plan without Blender. It was incredibly handy to actually sort of route around all the hidden all the hidden caves and, water areas that could potentially in there. It really sort of created sort of a minimum of hassle. There was only one area where I happened to just accidentally nick a cave, and that's because I wasn't looking too carefully when I planned it. If I do the entire burrow part, even the parts that I haven't quite burrowed out yet, I'm guaranteed not to actually hit anything, and thus I'll have a nice continuous sort of area on there. That is awesome, but I love the design. I want to put it onto Cytosis, which is the server that PZ Myers is part of, and I'm now part of as well. The problem, of course, is because it's an online multiplayer server, I don't have access to the actual world file itself, which means that I can't do the same thing within Blender and can't plan things out. This is, I mean, kind of annoying and all that, but I mean, there's ways to cope and ways to sort of figure it out, so, I could carry on from there. But rather than just sort of duplicate the thing exactly, I also realized there's another way to make things a little more interesting for myself. Uh, Almost every Minecraft player is used to basically popping open the debug screen and checking out the coordinates. It's incredibly handy for trying to figure out, connecting up with other players on remote servers, for planning builds out, and especially when I was building my private world, it was incredibly handy to actually allow me to hit my marks and make sure I was burrowing in the proper spot. It is, however, a debug thing. It's not technically part of the game. You can play the entire game perfectly fine without once going into here, all the way from the start to the end, and nothing will happen. So in some sense, it is sort of a cheat, even if it is widely accepted. So on top of basically building this style of world in a spot where I don't actually know entirely what the full layout will be, and B, so that I can't actually sort of open it up in Blender and plan out beforehand. But also B, not giving myself coordinates. This could actually be a really interesting, especially for a beginner Minecrafter such as myself. It could be quite entertaining to watch me sort of stumble and fall and figure it out. But I mean, as entertaining as that is, I've got to figure out the logistics of how to do it anyway, right? I mean, I can't just sort of burrow in there with a plan and, all the time and effort and stumbling and all that is going to be kind of annoying. I should have something a little bit better than just that. How can I improve my situation without sort of having to cheat with those lines? Well, I did a little bit of thought, and I'm sure if you've played Minecraft enough, you're aware that there's sort of a mapping system, which allows you to keep track of the environment within game itself. And one cool feature is that the smallest zoom step that's there, the most zoomed in that it gets, that is at 1-to-1. So for every little pixel on that map itself, that corresponds to a single block. So I can, in theory, get block to block precision for my builds just by sort of referring to the map and using that. Now, obviously, there's problems with markers and references and all that, but Minecraft provides. You can actually set down cotton banners wool banners on the map themselves, and they will show on there. And this allows you to actually specify specific points. Excuse me. So rather than actually using blocks and all that to mark these areas, I can just use banners instead, and then come back and easily delete them or what have you as necessary. Allowing me to sort of do pretty much all I want and just mark these things on there. Well, that handles the X and Z coordinates of the 3 coordinates that are there, but it doesn't get me the height. This map is actually sort of rendered top down, looking down on it, and it doesn't sort of reveal any details about what's underneath, so I need some additional way to capture that. With a bit more digging, I discovered that, in fact, if you are creating sort of a land by default without sort of changing any of the settings, the ocean is always at y = 63. So if I build my thing right next to the ocean as planned, guaranteed that the blocks which are just immediately above sea level will be at y = 63. So I can use that as an anchor or reference point to help build the rest of the area itself. That won't help very much with the top, but certainly when it comes to mining, since I love mining at y = 12, that will be really, really handy. As for the upper areas, well, it turns out that if there are only certain areas that have snow, if they're specifically high enough, and the lowest level that you actually spot snow is at y = 90. Which means now I can actually sort of pace out. I've got 2 reference points for the vertical, so I can actually use that to pace out exactly just, the entire layout itself. I need to sort of set up some basic plan for laying it out itself, but that's enough reference points that without going to the debug menu, in theory, I could actually design everything out. So let me show you what I've got planned, again, with the help of Blender. Obviously not, using the actual land itself, but just sort of laying things out before. The basic idea is I will come along to the mountain that I've got in mind here. Oh, I should enable the flags here. And I will come along and I'll set out a series of flags. These sort of set critical points that I can use to sort of mark where exactly I'm going to dig and burrow into here. This one that I've highlighted, obviously, is the special one and sort of the anchor point. In particular, this one should actually be sort of up front, right where the cliff would be on the eastern side of the mountain. Again, my plan here is to burrow into a mountain with cliffs on the east side, with the east side sort of facing the sun. Obviously, it'd be great to have that sunrise again. Plus the ocean, of course, down there too. So this is the plan. I essentially figure out the mountain that I'd like, with the right things and all that, including the snow that I need, and then just start setting out these blocks here. And in fact, because of the way the snow line is, I need to set these out a little bit higher. You'll see this shortly once I get to the next bit. But I lay out the flags exactly as such, and then I begin digging out the bedroom. This is basically a sort of a 10 by 4 by 5 block, which will go underneath here. If I can, let me pull back. There we go. Yeah, and then from this flag, basically I start burrowing down and start hollowing out my bedroom area as well. Now, one thing to note is the snow level is at y equals 90 at minimum. In order to have enough room for everything to sit in there, this is actually at y equals 92. So it needs to be a little bit higher than that. That's an important thing to remember. It's not just that I need a mountain with snow on top of it. I need a mountain with several layers of snow, and I need to be careful where I start digging. Anyway, once I've got that in place, I start hollowing out this area. This block actually may not necessarily be over here. I may have to, move it down slightly, simply to sort of compensate for the fact that there is a bit of a slope when it comes down to this front right here, and so I have to compensate for that directly. But nonetheless, I go through, I burrow down, and I start burrowing out this area, following again these specifications that I've got laid out over here. Let me bring that up. You can see these two blocks sort of define the two corners of the main bedroom itself, which is great. Now you'll also note I've got something of a donut over here. I'll have to zoom back a little bit. This actually is the stairwell that will get me down to the farm area. So after I've burrowed that out, I actually go out and burrow and start hollowing out this area as well too, and start preparing to build a stairwell. This being sort of the central anchor point for it. The reason for the hole in the donut is that's actually going to become a gravity chute, which I can use to get down to the lower levels as soon as possible. Once I'm down there, I start to figure out the stairs themselves. In this case, because I've got everything planned out, I know that I need to go down 1, 2, 3, plus one additional block in order to actually reach the proper mining area and have enough headroom underneath this thing that I'll have room for the farm that I want. So essentially leave that one at room level right there. Dig down over there, and I think the next one actually is one more down from that. But if I enable the farm room, ta-da! And now actually I can, once I've gotten to that area, just by sort of counting blocks and stairwells that's there, I hollow out this area right here, dig down a little bit, toss some water in there, then go back up and drill down through here and create my fall chute on that. Probably I'd hollow out actually a little bit around here first and build an infinite water supply, just so I don't have to worry about that necessarily. Okay, so once I've got that area burrowed out and all that, I start burrowing through this farm area here. Now, I'm not being too specific with the actual distances right here, because I don't know necessarily how steep this cliff is or what's beyond back here. So this is sort of like a floating design, which could actually accommodate all sorts of different sizes, depending on just how much room you've got within the mountain itself and where it goes through. And obviously, since I'm still relatively new on the Satosa server and I don't have a lot of charms or anything like that, enchantments stored up and all that, I'm going to have to sort of do this manually. And so I want to dig as little as possible before I can sort of bootstrap a farm and then start to build up some enchantments from there. But the important thing is, hollow out this area, get that central fall chute up and going, hollow out enough of this to sort of go across here, and, sort of hollow out the upper area too. And also hollow out this other area for a staircase right over here. This would become my entrance down, this would become my way down to the entry level. This is basically sort of the main way to get into, at least at first. Eventually, I'm going to go out and start spreading out to other exit points from within here, but this is my first shot at, getting in and out. But anyway, I go along and hollow all this out. If I haven't already, I will fill the front of this with glass to sort of help protect it, potentially leaving a door here depending on how things go. But regardless of that, I'll also fill out this area with glass too. But if I enable the main entrance level and look over it, you can see how there is a bit of a jump out over here. What I would do actually with this level right here is build a little bit of a diving board to sort of get out over the sea and give me ways to sort of jump in without essentially killing myself, depending on how high it is, based along this alignment from these two blocks right here. Just dig out, build even like a springboard out from that. Make sure there's sort of like a doorway or even just an opening in here that I can get in, such that I can actually come back over here or in here, again depending on the context. Build that stairwell out, and then do a dive off of that and land down on here back at sea level. Now if I've done this correctly, I'll be far out enough that I can come back in, and then using these alignments right here as well as the diving board for reference, I can actually go back in and dig into the mountain proper and set up sort of the main entry area that's along here. Now, for reasons that'll become apparent, I've obviously got to sort of build out some of this area here, and it's going to sync up with that, although there's not going to be any connection between these two. To get down from the farming level down to the entry level, you got to go down here. But I will be careful to actually hollow out this area a little bit, just 2 blocks high, so it's not so bad. But over top of that, and you see if I go to the upper view, this actually corresponds exactly with the staircase. So essentially I'm building a landing area so that when I start burrowing down from the top, I know exactly where to sort of hit and stop. I don't have to do any sort of guesses or manual guesses on that. And again, all synchronized with the top blocks that are there. Once I've got that layered out down there, I exit through here, and then however I got up to the very top of this mountaintop, I'll go back and do that again. So essentially build enough in here to sort of hollow out these 2 areas, retreat out, then go back up the mountain, and if it was convenient, enter in via the diving board area from over here. If it is not, then I guess enter in through here, through a doorway, or even just burrow in through the ceiling. If I've got spare stone, I can use to sort of patch up what's there. And now that I'm up here, I then go along and I build the stairwell down. Now I don't know exactly how far down this is going to be because I don't know exactly what level this thing started at. I know that it's greater than y equals 92, but I'm not sure exactly how high. So there could be a variable length distance between here and here, depending on how it looks. But that's okay. If I just start building down like this, burrowing down, at some point I'm going to hit this area that I sort of emptied out, potentially sort of dropping down, or potentially I'll set some torches there and realize that, hey, I've actually reached this area. And now, with a little bit of repairs and all that, I can actually build sort of a landing zone again through there. Repair the stairs that are there, go back up the stairwell, and dig out the fall chute to get me down to that area. And now I've got 1, 2, 3 of these areas all set up. And again, obviously, as I'm going to be setting up various, chests and construction benches and workbenches and all that to actually, help me do all these constructions and such. But once I'm here, I can actually go across here, and now, if I'm very careful with my counting, because this is at a known altitude, all I have to do is count blocks on my way down, and I'll know I could actually synchronize myself exactly with that y equals 12 area. Each of those is basically 1 full turn around a 5x5 staircase. So I've just got to memorize that I've got to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you look carefully, there's only 4 blocks on there, so it's almost 13 flights of stairs down to sort of eventually get to the mining level. And then once I get there, I just start hollowing things out. I know that if I go down 1 more block past there, I'll be at the y equals 12 area. I can then use my water buckets to set up an infinite water thing, set up some water up there. Then rush back up top, burrow straight down through there, and land in the landing zone right over there, and boom, I'll actually have the start of my farm. And because this is actually right within a cliff as well, one other neat thing about this is if I'm careful with how I keep track of all this, this area right here will not be within a mountain. It'll actually be under the ocean. And that's important because when I'm mining, the last thing I want to tangle with is a bunch of silverfish and all that. So if I'm very mindful with my directions and all that, I'll actually know immediately, okay, if I mine out in this direction over here, I don't have to contend with silverfish. And that'll get me, one good heads up when it comes to mining itself. And then it's just a matter of, setting up a food supply, setting up a wood supply down here, crafting benches. I don't know if I want a bed necessarily down here. Could be a handy one. Uh, and then just carrying on with it. Once I'm satisfied with what I've got in the mining area down here, I can come back up and hollow out the rest of the farm area. I can extend out the back here and try and get some sort of farm animals, within here. And basically by this point, I'll have a very solid sort of home set up within Setosis itself. Even though I don't have, Blender to help plan, it to sort of help route around things and all that, even though I don't have access to the coordinate system, it should turn out to be a really cool home. I hope. Again, I'm a newbie Blender person, so watching me sort of try and do this and fail and basically make up plans on the fly, I hope is going to be entertaining enough. So that's my basic plan. Once, the next time you see me, I will likely be on Setosis, getting ready to enact this plan. So, yeah. Until then, I guess I shall be seeing you next time. This is HJ Hornbeck, checking out, and happy mining.